Alright, sorry, start over.
Start over?
This is about Remington Arm, how you got...
This is about how I got to working for Remington Arms Company.
Okay.
1943, one Sunday I was reading the newspaper and I saw this ad where they wanted someone to travel in Arizona, New Mexico, and a little portion of West Texas, selling tools for this Remington, or for this Mall Tool Company. So I applied for this job and I answered this ad, and the day I answered the ad, there's 400 people applied for this job. They didn't hire me. A month later, I was reading the paper and I saw this same ad in the paper. So I applied for this job again. The guy that hired first, he only stayed there less than a month, and so he didn't want to travel anymore. So it was advertised again. So I applied for this job the second time, and they hired this hotshot engineer. I think it was the third time this guy didn't stay but a month. His ad was in a paper, and I applied for the job again, and I still didn't get hired, so I forgot about it. I went on a vacation to California, and I was at my brother's house one Sunday, and we were sitting at the table eating breakfast, and the phone rang. I don't know how in the world they got his phone number and where I was at his house. I was the slightest idea how they got it. But anyway, this regional manager from Mall Tool Company was on the phone, and he said he'd been reading my resume and he wanted me to go to work for him. I said, well, I wasn't interested in that job anymore. And I applied for it 3 times and didn't hire me, so I wasn't interested. So I hung up the phone. And I left California and I drove back to Phoenix. And whenever I drove into my yard, well, the phone was ringing. And I answered the phone. It was the same guy. He'd come over to Phoenix, and he said he was in Phoenix. And he wanted me to come up and have dinner with him and have some drinks. And he wanted to talk to me. I wasn't interested in having any dinner. I wasn't interested in having any drinks. And furthermore, I was tired, and I'd just driven in from California. And he talked and he talked, and he was such a good talker, till I finally relented and went up to have some drinks with him, just meet this psycho. I went up and I met this guy, and I really liked this guy, and he was really a salesman. And he talked me into taking the job that night and turning around and driving back to California with him. The airplanes were all on a strike, so we couldn't fly, so we had to drive back to California.
That night?
That night we drove back to California.
Was Nana mad?
No. And we drove to Palm Springs, California, and stayed the night, and then we drove on over to Monrovia the next morning. And I went to school learning about the tools they made and tearing them down and watching movies and talking to people about them for 1 month that I was at school. And then I left and I started back to Phoenix in this little old Chevrolet that we went to California in. And I got to Yuma, Arizona, and then threw a rod in it. And I called Joe Link, my district manager, and told him, well, just go down and tell him to put a brand new engine in it and call Mall Tool Company, sell him a purchase order and put a new engine in it. So I called my wife, and she came down to Gila Bend and picked me up and left the car there for to put a new engine in it. Came back to Phoenix when they got a new engine in it. She took me back to Gila Bend. I got the van, came back to Phoenix and loaded up, and I took off, and I was gone for 1 month before I returned to Phoenix selling. So I I worked selling for Remington for Mall Tool until 1956. I was 54 whenever that I went to work for them. In 56, well, Remington Arms bought the Mall Tool Company. And so they changed their method of distribution entirely. We'd been selling direct to dealers, but they changed to selling direct to wholesalers. So I worked for them for, in 1960 they transferred me to Denver, Colorado, and transferred me into the Gun and Ammunition Division. I sold guns and ammunition in Colorado and Wyoming and Montana and Idaho. And then in 1970 they transferred me to Southern California. And I stayed out there till 73. And 73, well, I resigned from Remington and went to Colorado and bought this little place called Trout Haven, and I opened up an RV park and little chain stores, and went to work for a dairy there. That's how come I got to work for Remington Arms Company, which was, well, I really enjoyed my years working for both Mall and Remington and selling tools and guns and ammunition.
Why did you resign?
Your Nana didn't like Los Angeles at all, and I wasn't particularly happy out there. And I decided I could make a lot more money working for myself than working for Remington, so I just left Remington.
Was that the case? Did you make more money on your own?
Yeah, I did.
I like that story.
You like that story?
Mm-hmm.